same in both glass. The only real difference is in the logos. So here's the analogy. If the world is Pepsi, the church is becoming Diet Pepsi. Or in other words, you can no longer tell the difference between the church, its members, and the world besides the title. As Randy Skeet says, the devil has done such a great job of influencing our churches and skewing our messages with faultness, we now have a Diet Pepsi Christianity. Instead of changing our lifestyle to fit God's law, we skew God's law to fit our lifestyle because it becomes easier. But even skewing it by 1% still makes it a lie. So let me give you some examples of a Diet Pepsi Christianity. Honor the Sabbath. Diet Pepsi says, well, as long as you go to church, if it's Sunday, if it's Saturday, if you go shopping afterwards, that all doesn't matter. It's all about just going to church. That's a Diet Pepsi. Jewelry, tattoos, piercings, that's all okay. As long as they're Christian themed or you don't wear them to church, that's also Diet Pepsi. How about allowing our kids to dress up for Halloween in good fun? Or sitting down and watching a horror movie, or maybe not a horror movie, but a film that is satanic inspired like a very popular, well-known Harry Potter. What about blurring the lines of genders, supporting LGBTQ events and holidays through wearing rainbow shirts on Pride Day and using the slogan, inclusivity for all, on various social media platforms? Do these examples sound like God-inspired practices? Think about it. How many times do we wash down God's instructions and law all in the name to blend in with society? How many of us have attended a Pride Day work event and maybe even wore the t-shirt just so we blend in? How many of us have bent how we keep Sabbath one afternoon because we were with non-practicing Adventist individuals or we're traveling to another destination? Think about it. How easy it is to fall into a Diet Pepsi Christianity lifestyle for those of us who know biblical right and wrong. Never mind the fact that now Christian churches around the world today are preaching that this kind of Christianity is acceptable by God. See, when someone comes into our church from a Diet Pepsi world, we shouldn't be offering them, when they come into our church from a Pepsi world, we shouldn't be offering them a Diet Pepsi. We should be offering them the river of life. It's the purest, best tasting water to ever exist. That's the purpose of God's church. Genesis 1:1-2 says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters." And if we keep reading, 3-5 continues. "And God said, 'Let there be light,' and there was light. God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day." So if we look at 1 and 2, what does the Bible say the earth was originally? The earth was at first formless, empty, and dark, before God's touch. Not established, but empty. And what did God do with earth? He made light. He made the earth visible. But again, here we see opposites. Do light and darkness exist at the same time? No. He separated the light from the darkness. He created day and he created night. So why separate the light and the darkness? Is it because light and darkness cannot exist in our lives at the same time? Why do we fool ourselves and think that light and darkness can exist at the same time? Why do we think that we are walking in the light, but then our actions are showing we are in the dark? It's a very simple equation. If our actions are in the dark, then our heart is also in the dark. And remember, God knows our innermost thoughts and actions. There's no fooling him. 2 Corinthians 6:14 warns us exactly of this, that both the righteous and the wicked cannot exist in the same place. And it reads, "Do not be yoked together with unbelievers. For what do righteousness and wickedness have in common? Or what fellowship can light have with darkness?" And here we circle right back to that earlier point of why God instructed Abraham and the Israelites on limiting their interactions with those around them. It's because they were to be the example. And how could they be the example if they became like the nations around them? And it's the same for us. We are called to live in truth, not a skewed version that makes ourselves feel more comfortable. And how can we be an example to those around us if we become like the rest of the world? The answer is clear: we don't. We become a Diet Pepsi in a world filled with Pepsi. There's a very common argument within Christianity today, and maybe some of you have heard of it, but it's this idea called once saved, always saved. And it's this idea that because Jesus died for us and we believe in God and we say we love him, we are saved no matter our actions. And when you think of it, it's an interesting concept that's being preached because it's actually the opposite of what Jesus was dealing with during his time on earth. When Jesus was on earth, he dealt with legalism and the Pharisees. And now today we've done a total 180 to where our actions don't even matter. Matthew 5:17-9 argues against this for us, and it says, "Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. For truly I tell you, until heaven and earth disappear, not the smallest letter nor the least stroke of a pen will by any means disappear from the law until everything is accomplished. Therefore, anyone who sets aside one of the least of these commands and teaches others accordingly will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever practices and teaches these commands will be called great in the kingdom of heaven." See, the issue with this once saved, always saved logic is that it doesn't consider the consequences for our actions. See, God's love doesn't change. It is always constant, but his love is also the whole package. God does love us no matter what, and that part of the argument is true. But it does not take into account that he does not take away the consequences of our actions. God's love includes both our actions and the consequences. And how can we expect to witness to those around us if we ourselves are not taking accountability for our actions? Ephesians 5:6 says, "Let no one deceive you with empty words, for because of such things God's wrath comes on those who are disobedient." God instructs us not to deceive others with empty words. When we label ourselves as Christians, we must ensure our actions, our words, and our lifestyle do not mislead others with empty words, but teach those around us about the truth of God. When God called upon the Israelites, they were supposed to be a shining light to the nations around them, by being in the world, not a part of it. The same is for Abraham. When God called him, God saw that majority of the world was in spiritual sewage, and Abraham was supposed to be the light to those around him. But Abraham was not to be of the world and mingle too closely with the neighboring nations. We are called to do the same thing today, to be a light to the world, to be in the world, but not part of it. Think of it this way. If someone in this world does not recognize you or me as a Christian, just from being around us and seeing our actions, maybe the problem is not with that individual, but it's with us. Or to rephrase, if our motives and actions are not recognized as by being different by those around us, we are doing something wrong. Many around Abraham did not understand when he took up his son into the hill and built an altar. Abraham's servants did not understand, but they knew Abraham was following a higher command, God's command. Isaac, although did not fully understand, he understood that his father was following God and therefore chose to obey willingly and submitted to